Okay, today's going to be a mixed bag of sorts. I'm just going to kind of go all over the place. We're going to start off with my personal perspective about hobby and competitive play and how you should really try to get the maximum out of both. Personally, I've been doing a lot of competitive play. I've been building towards competitive, painting towards competitive, and even reading towards my competitive army. And it's just nice to switch off and do a different paint scheme, different lore chunk to chew into, a little bit of different everything. So Custodes have been really fun to chew into, and that's kind of my rant of the day, is that don't dive too much into that competitive play. Just like Dota or League of Legends are great examples that some people just want to play nonstop ranked, me myself included, and you forget that there's a game underneath of that that's built for human beings to interact with other human beings for the purpose of getting something greater out of it than just a victory that you can check up to a huge ladder win that you're trying to rank up. Granted, you can still have that in the competitive aspect of 40K, but or the video games, but it's not. It shouldn't be all about that. And even if you do prefer competitive, just like myself, I prefer competitive over casual. There has to be a point you, for yourself, still retain some of that therapeutic quality of the hobby and joy and fun out of it, and not just win, 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 win. But rant out of the way, getting into the army itself, I have a lot of stuff going on here. This guy is a great example of some time I've been putting into it. I've got magnets glued to all of the bases. I got 9 of these bases ready for bikes. These dawneagle jet bikes have been a fucking pain in my ass lately. These underneath here, if it'll ever go in focus there, underneath is a socket for you to stick this ball joint type plastic thing in. If you see in the bottom, it's a nightmare to try to get this as a sturdy point, and because the weight of this is so oblong that to get it stable without it falling over has been an absolute nightmare. But it's been a fun, easy build for the most part. This one is actually one of the more complicated builds compared to the, troops here, the Warden, or even just the Custodian Guard, or even the Terminators, but all pretty easy, pretty posable. Even though they're mono pose for most of the legs, the arms are pretty posable for the most part. So it's been fun, joy to build them. Going over the paint scheme and what I've gotten so far. Something side note: the Loctite Extreme Glue is what I use to get the magnets down. It seems pretty new. I try it out. I like it. It's a glossy type hardening clear gel, so it's nice if I use it on the plastic. But plastic glue, otherwise, big fan of plastic glue. And I also used some liquid green stuff this time around, where I jammed this captain's arm because I wanted to stick up, have my captain distinguished a little bit different. So I have his arm sticking up. I jammed some green stuff into his right arm back there, along with some plastic glue around the edges where the plastic actually touched to give it a way more stable anchor point. So if it did fall, it would at least be sturdy enough to hopefully not bust his arm off, because it will be pointing off a lot. But that's the functional stuff. The base that I did for all this, that I plan to do, is going to be a Nuln Oil. It's going to be an Agronite technical shade. We're going to have a Abaddon Black base rim, and then we're going to do a Pallid Witch Flesh for the dry brush after I do a Nuln Oil shade over the Agronite. That's going to give us a nice, let me actually zoom in here. Whoop. It's going to give us a nice dry brush on the base there if you see that. Also, that cape is going to be a Mephiston red base with a Reichland shade. And then it's going to have a cherry, well, it looks like a cherry red, but it's a wild Evil Sun scarlet. And then it's highlighted with a Jakiro orange. And that Jakiro orange really brings out the tips of it, and you just want to do it very lightly. For the metal, I did a Retributor armor, and then I did a Agrax Earthshade as the shade, and then I brought some of that gold back with Auric Gold. Then I did a Liberator Gold, where the areas on the edges where I really wanted the Rune Fang Steel to really pop. And that Rune Fang Steel is the last dry brush. That'll be like the third dry brush layer, right after the Liberator, and then the Auric with the Retributor base with a Agrax shade. And that'll be pretty decent. And that, for what I want to go for that basic tabletop, and it's quick. Those are basic colors that most people have a lot of already. Okay, so this is the power weapon paint scheme I'm going with, or possibly going with. And here's an alternate of it. This is a Barath blue base with a koala green shade over top of that. And then there's going to be a Pallid Witch Flesh dry brush on the tip to give it that white edge highlight to give it that power effect and the contrast. Not as visible as far away as this scheme, which is just that Berithia blue with a Pallid Witch Flesh dry brush. I can make that dry brush a little bit more intense to give it more of that white standout effect, but this way is a lot more time efficient than this one. But this is more grimdark and matches the overall paint scheme. I'll probably end up going with this, but I might start off just doing this to get a tabletop ready. But here's an example of the power scheme I will be going with soon for this guy. And once I get that power sword or power axe for him done, then I'll give him a very, very light matte varnish spray. Not sure which brand I'm going to go with for it. And that'll just be like a stopping point to get him tabletop ready. That way I can get my greasy fingers all over them and not really wipe away all that paint and time and hard work and money we put into that just to watch it wither away. So that'll be the nice, quick, and easy paint scheme. Other stuff about my army that I got built or I'm going to build. I'm still working on these two captains, or just bikes for that matter, and they have been a nightmare, but they're my current project, if you will. I got 9 Allurus Terminators built, magnetized, based, and based with Retributor armor. I need to touch up everything with Retributor armor that you see in front of you. But I got 1 Warden that will act as a shield captain for a minute for me until I get some other stuff built. And I plan on getting another box of Terminators, bikes, and Trajan Valorous. That's my next 3 kits to get. And beyond that, I don't know. I'm excited to get these guys going. I got some 500 point lists, 1000 point lists, and 2K lists that I'm tossing around, especially some that mix in Ultramarines with them for some competitive play. And excited just to see where some new strategies I can come up with these guys. But thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you later, and we'll catch you on the flip side.